You're welcome, and you're a pleasure to welcome you here. And I think there will be some people still be joining, so I'll start a bit slow and say welcome to iSquare, even though Daniel is the only one really at iSquare in Kreuzberg in our offices. Like you can see, Daniel is in one of our labs, and Carina and me are kind of joining him. Actually, Daniel, you'll also be sharing the deck, right? So
That's right, yes.
that's good.
You want me to share it
No,
now?
no, no, no. I just wanted you to say something so that we can see you and Karina. Maybe Karina, you can also say something so people
Yes, hi everyone.
in real life. And it's my pleasure to introduce you guys and of course the topic. So here we have Carina Lehne de López. Carina has been with iSquare since a long, long time and is part of our management and is leading all of our UX research. So it's a big pleasure to have you in this webinar. And it's also great that this webinar series, which shows iSquare research from different angles now, also has a UX focus, and we'll learn about that in a bit, the collaborative, fast, and unique approach. And Daniel is here as our UX research consultant and as a UI specialist. And so actually hands-on using all of our research tools, and we'll be lucky to learn how you will use it. Last week on our Memex, we also already learned a bit, and maybe at the end I'll also go and show a bit more about our iSquare Research and Insight series. It's basically a webinar series where all of our different research teams, our UX research like today, our shopper research experts, and of course the brand research experts show how our tools are used in action and how we combine them. And what we would do just as an intro, I already introduced you guys, you don't have to do that again, is that you can raise your hand, you can ask questions in the chat, and also use the Q&A section. I can pull you in as a discussion participant at the end if you want. So for that, you could raise your hand towards the end of the session. So I know you would like to go in interaction. And if you just have a question, you can just post it. I'll read it out for you. And so Carina and Daniel, you guys don't have to look into the chat. And if I don't hear, we can't see your screen anymore, I'll let you know. So for now, we're all anonymous. I can see many people joined already. Thank you and welcome to iSquare. And yeah, we'll do this in English because we have an international client base, and there is also one or two people dialing in from the US. So good morning, and let's hand over to you, Carina. I'll mute myself, and you guys can start sharing.
Yes, thanks, Philip, for the great introduction. Happy to be here as part of our webinar series with actually, a straightforward UX webinar, let's say. Right, so today we will talk about the Sandbox, one of our newest technological innovations we are offering at iSquare. And I'm happy to be here also with you, Daniel, one of our dearest UX consultants in the team. And I will already go ahead, I think. Let's have a look what we will talk about today. So first of all, we will talk a little bit about the background of the Sandbox. So what is the Sandbox? Why did we actually develop it at iSquare? What is the background behind? Some of you have already maybe had contact with the Sandbox, maybe heard here and there a presentation of us. Many teams at iSquare are already using it, and we will show you in the second part how we apply it in the current UX research and what types of methodology we can use. And we will close the session with some benefits of the Sandbox for UX research and an outlook for future use cases. So let's start. What is actually the Sandbox? Its background. for those who already know I-Square and for those who don't, we at I-Square, we pay a very special attention to the real human experience, to real environments and real data. So we believe that it's crucial to observe behavior, let's say, of users and observe also consumer behavior to get really deep insights about products and brands. And especially in user experience research, we are observing users or your target group, how they interact with a digital product. And this is one of the most insightful moments, let's say, in the UX test. So ever since I-Square has been very curious to track and understand real user behavior, real consumer behavior. So first of all, let's talk about some metrics. There's attention, of course. I-Square is one of the pioneers when it comes to eye tracking. Most of you probably know eye tracking. We are doing this since the beginning. And then also for UX, what's really interesting is the clicks metrics. How do people actually navigate digital products? Where do they click? How do they make decisions to navigate online? And emotions is another very interesting metrics to also look at the emotional state, at the less pragmatic processes, how we perceive digital products and how we feel when we are using them. So we do facial emotion tracking as an example at I-Square. Yeah, as I already talked about attention, you probably already know the famous heat map here. Let's have a short look at our website back in 2010. You might say it's quite old school. So here you can see an attention heat map based on the aggregated gazes of several respondents. So this was what we've kicked off our research. We've done eye tracking a lot in the past. And a little bit later, 5 years later, we moved to mobile interactions. This was another level of behavioral research we've started in user experience. We have worked a lot here with the Korean market, with LG Electronics. We have looked at how consumers interact with mobile interfaces, with mobile websites, with apps. And here you can see a very elaborated and very detailed interaction analysis. Thanks to the I-Square visualizer, we were able to also visualize behavioral data in such great detail. You can see the heat maps of attention, but also the different clicks here and the tabs. Different colors are different types of interaction. So very insightful by this time for our clients. But as you can maybe imagine, it always required some manual work because, of course, by that time there was no tool that automatically registered the location of interactions, different screen resolutions, and so on. So we always had to do some manual work as well. Some years later, we also had another interesting metrics, or we still have this URL tracking in user experience research. This is to understand better how users navigate sites, basically based on URL tracking. So you can understand the mental model, how they look for products here in this example for online shopping. But as you can also imagine, quite tricky because websites are highly dynamic. You have carousels, you have so many dynamic navigations, folding, unfolding, and you have overlapping menus in this case. You have different screen resolutions. So tracking interactions and clicks on websites has always been a challenge, and it has always involved some manual work. Not in other areas of research. Let's have a look at our colleagues here from brand and media and shopper research, let's say. Here, I-Square has been developing for many years, developing and refining the in-context environment, our in-context platform. this was a very good breakthrough solution for automated testing, for fully standardized testing of advertising and also e-commerce assets like retail media and so on. So basically, what we did, we integrated some media environments and also some retail environments in our in-context platform. And then our clients tested, we tested the clients' advertising, different creations in social media, and also different retail media, different product and packaging variations. And of course, track the clicks and so on. And this brings me to the next step, the sandbox. The sandbox is actually an extension of in-context. So everything we already have in in-context, all the retailers, all the social media platforms, it's still already there. We can still experiment with different creations, with different products, and so on. But now, which is very nice, it's also possible to integrate any kind of environment. We can import Figma files, we can import real websites, we can extract real websites. And then in the second step, we can amend them, we can modify them, we can put new interaction elements, new wordings. Daniel will show you in a bit how that works. And the third phase is, of course, everything we create in the second phase, we can put it in our questionnaires and we can test it with real respondents. So the sandbox for us as UX researchers is a big step forwards to a more automated tracking of behavioral data, as well as the creation of different variations. So to say, yeah, the sandbox is a whole dissociated data safe digital environment, and it works in these 3 stages. Extract something from the internet as a Figma prototype, create different versions of it, and test it with other respondents. Yeah, and then I hand over to you, Daniel, because you have already been working with a sandbox and curious to hear how that looks like.
Yeah, thank you, Carina. So, yeah, you're probably wondering how all of this works in practice. And creating environments can sound a bit abstract. So, yeah, that's why we wanted to take a closer look to the actual interface we use when working with the sandbox. And yeah, let's start at the beginning. So, yeah, well, we have 4 different ways of approaching the extraction and creating part. So the first one would be starting from scratch. That really means a blank page where we build up everything element by element. Of course, that takes time, but for simpler or more minimalist designs, that can definitely work. But then there's option 2, which is generally a bit faster, more efficient, and that is importing already existing designs. So here we've got various ways of plug in what's already been created, like live websites or early prototypes. We can even directly import Figma prototypes, so that of course makes the setup a lot faster, a lot more efficient. Option 3 is a hybrid approach. That means that we can recycle or reuse elements from previous studies. So that is especially interesting for clients that want to do various studies with the sandbox. So you can set up templates and you can just switch out elements or import specific elements for a specific study. And the fourth option is maybe the one that sounds most flashy, but is still in development though. That's our AI-based version. So this lets us generate entire designs by written prompts. So we describe what we want and need or imagine, and the AI builds a first visual draft. That's special. I think that's most useful for early creative, maybe co-creation phases where teams need to quickly visualize what they're thinking of. So yeah, as you can see, the Sandbox gives you plenty of flexibility to build the environment you need for a study, depending on the needs or the input available. And yeah, then we can create variations. How do we do that? That is with our visual editor. So that's the part that's the cool part for me as a researcher, I would say. So we don't need to bother our development team for every change we want to make, nor do we as researchers need coding skills or be web developers. So we just use a visual interface. In this case, currently it's based on Builder.io. That's a content management system, and it's very similar to other ones like WordPress or maybe other CMS from web development. But the best part is that it's a visual editor. That means that you really directly edit what you're seeing in your browser. So no software to install, just log in and start. Let me quickly show you how that looks. So this is the editor where the magic happens. What you're seeing here is not just a mock-up out of images. As you can see, it's all elements, single elements that you can edit, move, restyle, layout. You can just click on it and change text, for example, change color. On the left side, you can see that you have the option to always add more elements, like basic elements, text, images. You can import from Figma prototypes. If you say, let's say you want to import just a part of your prototype, and then you have layer options. Many of you will know that from Photoshop or HTML, where you get a full overview of the structure. Maybe I can jump a bit. You can, as you can see, you can just change color. It's always a few clicks. You can always undo whatever you have changed. So if you change your mind, you can just undo it. And then you can always check your current draft. And here you can see that it doesn't look like an image mock-up or an early prototype. It has mouse over effects. It has a search bar that really feels real, like a real website, and that's the important part for us. So those websites feel like real websites. And yes, I say you don't need to know any coding, but yes, of course, you can use CSS or HTML. You absolutely can use it. But the great thing, especially for us, is you don't have to. Okay, but that's not all of it, because it's not just about what it does for us, maybe as researchers, but for UX research in general. So I think one very important part is that we are not limited to predefined environments. So we test a lot of live websites, and the problem with that is that you can't just change things during a testing phase or just beforehand. You can't say, let's test another header image, or let's change the navigation. So with the Sandbox, you can just turn almost any website into a flexible environment and a flexible testable environment, and can then go on and just create a variation and play with it and change stuff you want to change and have it look differently, and then always test it without touching the live website. The other thing, and that's something that we've been using now, especially in the first phase of using the Sandbox in UX, is that it improves the way we do quantitative studies, quantitative research. So maybe for some context, in the past, we normally had two options. When we tested a website with a large scale survey, that was all we could click tracking. We could do click tracking but that required some manual work. The other and more common option was without tracking, and that meant, and you can see it here in this screenshot, participant would answer the first part of the survey, like about their age, about expectations, and then receive a link to a website or to a prototype with a task about what to do on the website. So then they would be sent from the survey to the live website and hopefully come back and hopefully do the task and hopefully answer our questions. But for us, it was not visible what they were doing on the website. So they came back, and then after, I mean, it did always work, and they answer the questions afterwards, but especially behavioral metrics like first click, time to first click, scrolling, visibility of elements, all that is unconscious and so was not trackable for us. So that is now much easier with the Sandbox. You can just add, and I can show you another small clip. You can just choose any element. Here we chose a button, zum Angebot, and you can just add a click tracker, which is just another element you can put in, and it does the click tracking for you. So we can send the participants from the survey to our controlled environment of the Sandbox and then send them back to the survey, or even send them back afterwards again to the website without losing participants and without losing track of what they're doing. So yeah, what were they doing? Maybe the best way to explain is by showing an example. Carina, you worked on this specific study. Maybe you can give us
Sure.
some insights.
Yes, thanks, Daniel. You have already shown the Klarmobil website here in the Sandbox. So Freenet approached us to do an online survey with them for different, they had some design questions for their website. And we have decided that we want to do that with a Sandbox and with click tracking, and to give it, to make a step backwards and to put it in a theoretical framework. Maybe those of you who know Kahneman and who have seen some of our presentations, Michael's presentation, know that we have two systems. So how we perceive and how we act. First of all, the implicit system one is a very quick system. It can do multitasking. It's based on intuition, which we call the implicit system one. And this is everything what we would do and feel with a digital product. Whereas system two is a more slow, ethereal system, which is connected to cognition and is addressing everything people can really evaluate regarding a digital product. So this, as a background, we took for this study as well. So what happened, Freenet approached us and said, look, we have different brands. We have also Klarmobil brand. And in other brands, we see that maybe people need more information on the homepage. They had some other brands that had a different amount of information. So they wanted to do a study and find out how much information do people want and need on the homepage to decide for a certain tariff. So we decided to make a quantitative online survey with 300 users. We did this in a monadic setup, so one person just saw one version. And it took 10 minutes. We first of all screened users. They were all mobile phone decision makers. Then we took them to the Sandbox. So we asked them to do a use case to decide for a certain tariff with the version they were confronted with. And then we took them automatically back to the post-task survey, and then we asked them some UX questions. So what we actually did with the Sandbox, we just took the live site, which you can see on the left, which is the current version, very minimalist, very little information. And we created two more design variations. So version 2 with a little bit more detail, and the version 3 with even more detail and more navigation elements. And so this was really nice. This was easy to do. We didn't our client didn't have to ask for design and development resources in their organization. And what we saw, the Sandbox's metrics really, the metrics tracking, the click tracking revealed the real winning design. So we can see here the version 2.1 in terms of time to first click. So with this version 2, people were able to already click the right call to action after 37 seconds. So time to first click. And what we also saw regarding the task time, the total time on task, we saw that the version 2 is also the one that allows a very fast and straightforward task completion, because people just spend less time especially on the homepage. Yeah, so what does this tell us? It was a really great insight for Freenet. So their feedback was that it was great how we could create these versions, that they didn't had to ask for their resources. Also that we got behavioral click data together with survey data. And we clearly found out if we would just have done the survey, we wouldn't have identified the version 2 as a winning version, because actually version 2 and 3 both performed very well regarding the survey data. So then we will move to the benefits of the Sandbox. So for our clients and general user experience research, the one big benefit is that we can create the designs, right? So you can create them collaboratively, show them to colleagues and also to respondents, and iterate on the designs. Second, there are no resource bottlenecks, no need for in-house design or development resources. You can just do it on your own as a researcher. And third, you can also do behavioral testing in combination with survey data. And then I hand over to you, Daniel, closing with more benefits.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'll try to make it brief, but some of you might remember our last webinar where our colleagues Dr. Julia Nitschke and our CEO Michael Schiesel introduced the concept of the iron triangle. The iron triangle describes the challenges or the challenges many in-house UX teams face, which is a balancing act between time, costs, and scope. So first of all, research takes time, and then you need resources to not just for the research, but to create prototypes, to build designs. And then at the same time, and that's the third corner, you want solid, high quality results. So often one of those three things or corners has to give in to reach expectations regarding the other two. Like maybe you want to cut costs, so you spend less time on research and the insights may not be that deep. Or you take your time and you do really high quality research, but that comes with a cost, and so on. So the idea of the sandbox is exactly to overcome this kind of bottleneck, as Carina already said. So once the design is imported, you can not just do research with it, but you can quickly create different versions. As I said, you want to change the header image, you want to add a category to your shop. That's just a few clicks. And it's not just about building those creations for user tests, for UX research. It's also about making ideation, creation, creative processes, iteration visible within a team. So you can collaboratively work on a design, you can show it to your team, or one team can show it to the other within a company. So teams can sketch out ideas, and you can see in this video how fast it is that you can just create with the sandbox. So it's also about efficiency, about collaborative work within our clients' teams. And that can be for UX research, for even marketing teams or product teams. So you don't have to wait maybe for your project to rise to the top of the priority list of the company. Yeah, and that's why the Sandbox is addressing this iron triangle, and brings together the three corners, to say it that way. So yeah, what's next? We wanted to end with a quick outlook. Right now, and we've showed an example, we are already using the Sandbox for quantitative UX research. That means for online surveys, integrating behavioral metrics like click tracking, but there's so much more on the horizon. So we're exploring, for example, how to use the Sandbox in qualitative interviews, where participant can interact with the design, but you can back up qualitative insights with behavioral metrics. Then, of course, and we mentioned it already, in-house, we can do co-creation workshops for in-house teams or together with our clients, so we can just sketch out designs and do like visual ideation processes live and together. And of course, for in-house teams, the Sandbox opens up in a very efficient and collaborative way to create, adapt, and test design ideas. And yeah, I think with that, Carina, we will wrap up our little tour through the Sandbox. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, nothing to add now in that moment. Thanks a lot, everyone, for your attention. We are a little bit over time, but maybe there's time for one question. I don't know.
Sure, we always have time for questions. We don't have another webinar following right now in our Zoom. Thanks everyone for staying here with us, and also thanks to you guys, Daniel and Carina. I also didn't see the iron triangle for a long time, but I do remember it from project management, and the quality in the project management is normally in the middle where you put the Sandbox now, and I think that's a good connection, right? Like if you have constraints within a project, quality is always something that might be lost if you don't have enough time or resources, and the Sandbox helps here. And it also connects to one or two of these questions. So thanks for dropping us a question here. Yeah, one was about the survey connection. So you said basically, yeah, the strength is that it's all online. You can invite people, record this data, and how do you connect it to a survey or any survey? And the respondents, so do I get this right? Yeah, the respondents can I bring, or do you guys bring?
Well, we are very open for that. I mean, normally we recruit them via a panel partner. So basically, we program an online survey, and then we have a link, a participation link for the survey. And of course, if you have your own client panel or your own community, you can also send this link out to respondents, participants from the community. And then they just normally start with a pre-interview with a screener. And we would include and embed the HTML link in the environment of the Sandbox, so where actually the click dummies and the different designs are hosted in the survey. So they are, by clicking the link, they are taken to this environment, they do some tasks, and then either after 3 minutes, let's say, or when they click a certain element, let's say they put a product in the cart, we can define a certain interaction, and then they are taken back to the post task survey. So yeah, it's very easy. We can control everything what they do in this case. Hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think that did it very well. And one of the other questions was a bit more about the scope, if we stay in the triangle, and the question, like if you have already a Figma file or a prototype, like does it then, is it then easier or cheaper, or is it relying on Figma, like, or how's the Figma connection? Since you showed it, it's not Figma, so that's, I guess, the question.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier if you have a Figma prototype already, because it is possible just to import Figma prototypes into the sandbox, and then it's just quicker adjustments. So you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to import a whole website. You don't have to build or rebuild like image-based. So a Figma prototype is generally the best way for us just to import it. And then until now, it's mostly our researchers that do like the quick adjustments. At some point in the future, the idea is to also give the client the possibility to do some adjustments, some editing to the prototype in the sandbox. But yeah, it's definitely more efficient and faster to do it via a Figma prototype.
Cool, thanks, Daniel. And well, then I think we're good, and we thank you again, and thank all of you for attending.